the best a man can get.
Back here, first things first, FS1 NBA insider, all-around fun guy, Chris Broussard joins the show.
It is
Chris?
great to be here once again.
Good conversation.
Enjoying the week. Yes.
All right, let's do it. Let's talk OKC. The Thunder, last night, they double-handedly took down the Portland Trailblazers in overtime, double because Russ Westbrook and Paul George combined for 69 points. Right now, OKC, Broussard, is sitting in the 3rd seed out west. Are you buying them as a threat in the Western Conference?
I like OKC a lot. I think they're the 3rd best team in the conference behind Golden State and Houston. I think Houston's the only real legitimate threat to the Warriors in the West. I think the thing about OKC, they can overwhelm you with their athleticism. You know, and they're like Paul George, Russell Westbrook, Terrence Ferguson, even Jeremy Grant. They used to do that to San Antonio. When they had KD. They were always a problem for the Spurs because of their length and athleticism. But look, they couldn't beat Golden State with KD, who as great as Paul George is playing, KD is better, and when Golden State didn't have KD. So I can't see them beating them. Great year. Russ has really matured. He still obviously takes too many three-point shots, makes the bad decision here and there. But as far as facilitating, he's gotten much better. And guys like Steven Adams, Jeremy Grant, Dennis Schroeder, and Paul George are having career or near-career years because of it. But I just could not see them beating Golden State.
But they might not. If you think Houston's the only legitimate threat to Golden State right now, that would be
beat them.
You think Houston could beat Golden State?
Possibly, yeah. Right. I would pick Golden State, but yeah, I think Houston could.
So the point I'm making is right now, Golden State Houston would be the 1-4.
Right.
And so tell me if I'm wrong. Oklahoma City could beat Houston. Like, Oklahoma City could make the NBA Finals without ever having to play Golden State.
Right.
Like, that's why, to me, that win last night was so important. You saw the playoff intensity. We talked about it earlier, almost 24 lead changes, game tied over a dozen times. It was never a lead greater than 8 points. Because what Oklahoma City does not want, if they lost, they'd be basically flip-flopped with Portland in the standings. They would be looking at Houston in round 1. And you stay at the 3 line, you avoid Golden State, assuming they stay at the 1 line. Like, there's a lot of machinations there. But I am so impressed with what Russ has done over the last 9 games. Russ, from the game before the All-Star break to now, I don't know if it's sustainable, but what he's done is he went back to his MVP season shooting-wise. Like, show what Russ was the first almost 50 games of the year. The most important line are those percentages. So 41% from the field and 24% from 3 while averaging 21 points first 48 games of the year. Since then, the assists are down, but the scoring is way up thanks to the fact that he's went from horrific three-point shooter to decent, and that also elevated his regular field goal shooting. If Russ can play near this level moving forward with the level Paul George is at, this is an incredibly dangerous team in my eyes.
Also Paul George, which is the one thing you've been saying. We almost wanted to throw out most improved player. How much does he help this team with their athleticism and their length and all of it?
And because his dimensions, 6'7", long arms, not KD, but KD-like-ish, a great on-ball defender, great help defender, great in steals. But the biggest thing that happened was Russ, to me, I don't believe this 9-game stretch is going to help them. It's going to help the team get through a stretch, because for me, it gives Russ the confidence to think that he is that guy a couple years ago, and he's not. And when he plays that way, this team is not as good. The reason why this team has been a threat this year, because he has said in his mind, that guy, Paul George, is better than me. I'm going to defer to him. Now, last night, Paul George is 1 of 9 from three-point range. He's been great shooting it from deep all year. So Russ picked up the slack, and in this last 9 games, when you get into a series, Russ can't fall in love with the 3, and there's no one here that on this panel can say, I know he won't do that in the playoffs.
No, what's their record in those 9?
In those 9,
I think they're like 4 and 6, I believe, something like that.
4 and 6 in their last 10. I think they're
so
4 and 5 in those 9 because it also coincided with Paul George because he went through an unbelievable stretch. He got dinged and wasn't playing as well.
Yeah, he's got a bad shoulder injury that he's trying to rehab. He's trying to play through it right now. In the telecast last night, they talked about the difficulty, and he's trying to strengthen his rotator cuff, but he's had problems shooting, and it was you could see last night the 1 of 9 from deep.
Here's the reason the stretch is encouraging to me in a different way. I know Russ is going to continue to shoot threes, whether he's 25% or 38%. None of us can sit here and say he won't fall in love with the three. He will. He has this year, last year, he shoots way more threes than he should. The point is, it's one thing to be shooting 6 threes a game at 25%, and it's another thing if he just splits the difference between the first 48 games in the stretch. If he's shooting them at 33%, they don't kill you. They kill you at 25%.
That's probably more realistic.
Right, and so
the problem is, how many is he going to shoot?
Right.
Like you're sitting here doing it like it's you know something, I got water right here. I'll pour a little bit of this in here. But with Russ, it's always the maximum amount. Like, we know that. When the stage gets bigger, he's going to shoot it. And what he had did in the first half of the basketball season, deferring to Paul George, that's what made this team get in the position. In that stretch, they have not looked good as a team, even though he personally has benefited.
Yeah, I think they're better off, and his scoring is a little lower, maybe 23, 24 a game, and he's getting the other guys involved. Look, I do agree with your point that if Houston could knock off Golden State, so that seeding is huge. Then, yeah, then it's wide open, and certainly I'd throw OKC in there and give them a chance.
But until then, we all talk about how all of these teams in the top of the West compare themselves to Golden State. So if OKC is going to face or beat the Warriors, what do they have to do?
I really don't think they can beat them, but, you know, again, their athleticism has to be huge. Russ does have to be. You have to get the best of him in everything.
Yes.
Not shooting too much, you know, letting George be the leading scorer, but yet still hot from three. That's what you have to get from Russ.
What you got to get from Russ is better on the defensive end. Last night, Damian Lillard gave him 51, okay? And he is not a great defender going against Steph. So it is not the best matchup. When you look at, man, team versus team, Steph can take advantage of who Russ is as a defender. Now, we talked about on the offensive end, when you get in those matchups, he's a better matchup against Houston and Chris Paul at this stage, because they're not going to have Chris Paul on the ball and stuff as much. They're not going to have him running around those screens and stuff. Steph is a tough cover for them. So they have to try to figure out some type of way, how are we going to slow down Steph?
So much of this discussion about who is and is not a threat in the West has to deal with what version of Golden State are we actually going to get? And that's why tonight's game against Denver, to me, is so intriguing. It's at Oracle. The 1 seed is on the line. They're coming off a terrible loss. If Golden State shows up tonight, reminds everybody, yeah, there's drama. KD and Draymond, KD and the coach, Boogie's plus minus. But guess what? We're still worlds better than everyone else. Then this is all probably, aside from Houston, really silliness. But if Golden State tonight, in a big game at home against the team chasing them, doesn't show up, then I think we have to start saying, okay, how vulnerable are they? And in a series where Paul George can't go eye to eye with KD, but he can go as close as almost anybody in basketball, what can they do? We know Oklahoma City has more depth. We know that Golden State's bench has been a killer for them all year. We know that Steven Adams has been a guy that's always irritated Draymond. Like, there are elements that if Golden State is unable to lock in, where Houston's not the only team that can beat them in my eyes. Now, Golden State tonight reminds everybody, guys, guess what? We're fine. Then it's Houston and everybody else is really competing just to lose to them.
Yeah, to me, tonight is a big game. It is a chance to send a message game, but for Golden State, I think BROUSSARD and I, we will speak for, man, we got much confidence in them that they can hit the switch. If they don't do it this Friday, they can do it next Friday, or it could be the first week of the playoffs. But come playoff time, Golden State will have their whole focus on three-peating.
Yeah, I think their biggest focus is staying healthy.
Yeah, how do we get
Obviously, they want to get it together a little bit, but stay healthy. And Kerr does have to make that tough decision. They're going to have to figure this out with Boogie. And they brought in Bogut, obviously.
Bogut thing's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, look, that's the only reason they did it, because they see, like everybody else sees, what the deal is with Boogie. Yeah, no question. And we talked about it. I think they might have been better off just bringing him off the bench from the beginning, trying to sell him on, look, the second unit is yours. You're going to get your 15 points a game in that second unit. We're going to run it through you.
And Draymond plays better when Boogie's not out there.
Right.
And so then Draymond would get more minutes without him. So, but they can't go back in time. And now once you make him a starter, sending him to the bench could be one of Kerr's tougher decisions in this tenure as the head coach. It's one of the reasons why this weekend is because Golden State has OKC coming up as well. This weekend's really interesting.
Yeah. Chris, stick around. Take a break. Coming up, talk LeBron James. Is he still the face of the NBA? That's next on First Things First.
What you laughing about?
Last Friday, man, you predicted, man, Lakers, man, they're going to beat Milwaukee.
And beat Milwaukee and lose to Phoenix is what I said.
They're getting ready to go on a run.